You put your house on the market, you get an offer, and everything feels like it's going great. Then the inspection report comes back, and suddenly you're staring at a 12-page document that lists everything you ignored for the last 10 years. The buyer's agent is calling. The buyer wants a price reduction. And your real estate agent is using words like renegotiation and contingency. And they might walk. That right there is one of the worst feelings a homeowner can have. And the frustrating part is that most of the stuff on that inspection report was fixable. Most of it was cheap to fix. You just didn't know it mattered until someone else's inspector pointed it out at the worst possible time. Hit subscribe before we begin, because we cover exactly this kind of stuff every single week, and I don't want you to miss it. I'm Jerry Davis. I've been in the construction and renovation business for a long time, and I've sat in on more post-inspection conversations than I care to count. I've watched deals fall apart over problems that cost less than $500 to fix. I've watched buyers use inspection reports to hammer sellers down by $15,000 on a home where the actual repair bill was maybe $3,000. I've also watched sellers who were proactive, who addressed the big stuff before they ever listed. And those sellers walked away with cleaner offers, faster closings, and a lot less stress. So today, we're going through 10 of the most common deal breakers that show up in home inspection reports. Not obscure stuff, not rare stuff. This is the everyday, hiding in plain sight kind of problems that buyers and their inspectors find in houses all the time. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to look at before you ever let an inspector walk through your front door. You'll also know what buyers are actually worried about and why certain issues scare them more than the repair cost suggests they should. Let's get into it. The first one, and this is the one that kills deals faster than almost anything else, is the roof. And here's what I mean by that. It's not always a fully collapsed roof or obvious storm damage. Sometimes it's just a roof that's 15 years old, has some missing granules in the shingles, a couple of areas where the flashing around the chimney or the skylights isn't sealed properly anymore, and maybe a vent that's lifting slightly. An inspector walks up there and calls it out. Now the buyer reads the word roof in the report, and suddenly they're picturing a $20,000 replacement, even if the real fix is $2,000 in targeted repairs. Roofs carry psychological weight. They are the number one thing buyers worry about. So if your roof is aging, get a roofer out there before you list. Get a written estimate. Know what you're dealing with. If the repairs are minor, do them. If the roof genuinely needs replacing, price that into your listing strategy. Don't let a buyer's inspector be the first person to tell you the roof has issues. That puts you in the worst negotiating position possible. The second thing that shows up constantly is electrical. And I'm not just talking about old knob and tube wiring in a 100-year-old house. I'm talking about problems in relatively modern homes too. Double-tapped breakers, which is where two wires are connected to a single breaker slot that's only rated for one wire. Missing GFCI outlets in the kitchen, bathrooms, garage, and exterior. Reversed polarity on outlets. An electrical panel that's been recalled. And yes, certain brands have been subject to safety recalls for decades, and they're still sitting in houses all over this country right now. Federal Pacific and Zinsco panels are the two big ones. If your home has one of those, buyers are going to see that in the report, and their insurance company may not even want to cover the home until it's replaced. Electrical problems feel dangerous to buyers. They feel like fire risk, and that fear is not irrational. Get your panel looked at by a licensed electrician before you list. Replace those GFCI outlets. They cost about $25 each and 20 minutes of your time. Do not let cheap, easy fixes show up on an inspection report as electrical deficiencies. Number 3 is plumbing, specifically slow drains, visible corrosion on supply lines under sinks, water stains around the base of toilets, and galvanized steel pipes in older homes. Here's what no one tells you about galvanized steel. Inspectors know that once galvanized pipes start to corrode on the inside, the water pressure drops, the flow is restricted, and eventual failure is a matter of when, not if. Buyers with a good inspector will hear all of this. And suddenly the conversation shifts from, "It's a nice house," to, "We need to talk about the plumbing." If your home is older and still has galvanized supply lines, that's a conversation worth having with a plumber before you list. Sometimes a partial repipe of the most vulnerable sections is enough to reassure buyers. And if there are water stains around the base of your toilets, just replace the wax ring seal. It's a $60 repair. Don't let it look like you had a slow leak for 3 years, because visually, that's exactly what it looks like. The fourth thing is foundation cracks and water intrusion in the basement or crawl space. Now, not all cracks are structural. Inspectors know the difference between a hairline shrinkage crack that's been stable for decades and a horizontal crack in a block foundation that suggests lateral soil pressure and active movement. But buyers don't always know that difference. And when an inspector writes up cracks observed in foundation wall or evidence of moisture intrusion in crawl space, buyers hear, "This house is falling apart." So here's what you need to do. If you have visible cracks, get a structural engineer or a foundation specialist to look at them and give you a written assessment that says whether they're active or stable. That documentation is worth more than any cosmetic patch job. And if you have a wet crawl space or basement, address the drainage. Make sure the grading outside is sloping away from the house. Make sure your gutters are clean and your downspout extensions are pushing water at least 6 feet away from the foundation. That alone fixes a significant percentage of minor water intrusion issues. Number 5 is HVAC. Specifically, a heating and cooling system that's old, poorly maintained, or has visible issues like rust, sediment buildup in the condensate pan, or a heat exchanger that the inspector suspects is cracked. Here's the thing about HVAC. Buyers know that a furnace replacement runs between $4,000 and $8,000. An AC unit is similar. So when an inspector flags the HVAC, buyers immediately start doing math, and that math rarely comes out in your favor during negotiations. Get your HVAC serviced before you list. Hire an HVAC technician. Have them do a full tune-up and get a written report that says the system is in good working condition. That piece of paper is an asset when you're selling. If the system is genuinely at end of life, talk to your real estate agent about whether replacing it before listing or offering a credit makes more sense. But don't go into the sale with a 20-year-old unit that hasn't been touched in 5 years. That's asking for trouble. The sixth thing is water heater issues. And yes, I know this sounds minor, but here's the problem. Water heaters have a standard service life of about 8 to 12 years. If yours is older than that, inspectors note it and buyers notice it. But the bigger issue is the installation details. Missing a seismic strap in earthquake-prone areas. No expansion tank on closed-loop systems where one is required by current code. The pressure relief valve discharge pipe terminated incorrectly. These are the small installation details that inspectors flag and that make buyers feel like the house was put together carelessly. A lot of these are $40 fixes. Do them before the inspection. And if your water heater is pushing 15 years old, seriously consider replacing it before listing. A new 40-gallon water heater installed by a plumber runs somewhere between $800 and $1,500, depending on your market, versus a buyer who sees water heater beyond expected service life in an inspection report and asks for $3,000 off the price. You do the math. Number 7 is windows and doors that don't operate properly. I know that sounds almost too simple to be a deal breaker, but hear me out. When an inspector goes through your house and finds 5 windows that don't open or close properly, a back door that doesn't latch unless you shoulder it, foggy double pane windows where the seal has failed, and a sliding glass door that jumps off its track, it creates a cumulative impression. The inspector isn't just writing up individual items. The buyer is reading a list of deferred maintenance. They start to wonder what else wasn't maintained, what wasn't visible, that also wasn't taken care of. Broken or failed window seals are incredibly common, and buyers notice the fog between the glass panes immediately. Reglazing or replacing fogged sashes is cheaper than most people think. Walk through your house before listing and open and close every single window and door. Fix the ones that stick. Replace the hardware that doesn't work. These small things add up to either a house that feels solid and well-maintained or a house that feels neglected. Number 8 is ventilation issues. And this is one that homeowners almost never think about. Bathroom exhaust fans that vent directly into the attic instead of to the exterior. Kitchen range hoods that recirculate instead of actually exhausting to outside. Attic ventilation that's inadequate, causing heat buildup and moisture problems. These are things inspectors check and buyers take seriously because inadequate ventilation leads to moisture, moisture leads to mold, and mold is the word that can stop a transaction dead in its tracks. If your bathroom fans vent into the attic, that's a relatively simple fix. A duct kit and a proper exterior vent termination is usually a half-day job for a handyman. Do it before the inspection. And while you're at it, make sure your attic has adequate soffit and ridge venting and that none of the insulation is blocking the soffit baffles. An overheated, poorly ventilated attic shortens roof life and tells inspectors the house has systemic maintenance issues. Number 9 is mold and moisture staining. And I want to be specific here because there's a difference between active mold growth that requires professional remediation and a few water stains that come from a long-fixed leak. The problem is that to an untrained buyer, both look equally scary. Dark staining around a bathroom exhaust fan penetration, watermarks on the ceiling below an upstairs bathroom, discoloration along the base of exterior walls, in a basement. All of these raise red flags even if the underlying problem was fixed years ago. If you have staining from a historic leak that's been repaired, document the repair and consider painting or finishing the area so it doesn't present as an active concern. If you actually have mold, deal with it properly before listing. Don't paint over it. Don't cover it with fresh drywall and hope nobody notices. Inspectors have moisture meters. They probe suspicious areas, and when they find evidence of a cover-up, that is dramatically worse for your negotiation than the original mold problem would have been. The 10th thing, and this one surprises people, is missing or inadequate safety features. Handrails that are loose or missing on stairways. No smoke detectors in required locations. Missing or non-functional carbon monoxide detectors. Guardrails on decks that don't meet height requirements or have balusters spaced too far apart. A garage service door that doesn't self-close and self-latch. These items seem almost trivially easy to fix, and they are. But inspectors are required to flag code and safety deficiencies, and buyers who get a report full of these items start to feel like the seller didn't care about the safety of the people living in the home. It's a feeling more than a calculation. And feelings drive buying decisions more than most people admit. Walk through your house with fresh eyes, test every smoke detector, make sure the carbon monoxide detectors are current, check the deck railing by grabbing it and actually trying to shake it. Tighten the stair handrail. These fixes take an afternoon and a trip to the hardware store. Do not let $40 worth of work show up in an inspection report and knock $5,000 off your sale price. Tell me in the comments which one of these you are about to get caught on, because I guarantee at least 2 or 3 of these are sitting in almost every house that goes to market without any pre-inspection prep. And I've watched sellers find out about all of this at the worst time, after they already have a buyer and the clock is ticking. Here's the thing. A good inspector is doing their job. They're not trying to kill your deal. They're telling the buyer exactly what they're getting into, and that's fair. The mistake sellers make is treating the inspection like something that happens to them instead of something they can prepare for. You can control a lot of this. You can walk through your own house with this list, identify what needs attention, get the easy stuff fixed, get quotes on the bigger stuff, and walk into that transaction with information on your side instead of being surprised by it. A clean inspection report doesn't mean a perfect house. It means a maintained house. And buyers understand the difference. They're not looking for a new build. They're looking for a seller who paid attention and took care of what they had. Give them that, and your deal is much more likely to close on time and at the price you agreed to. If this was useful, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's thinking about selling in the next year, because I promise you, they need to see this before they list. I'll catch you in the next one.